life of love, life of love, with Joy Hilsen.
It's like having a 2 week vacation every day, and that's where you make your connections to your higher self, and that's where you begin to explore yourself deeply and completely, and begin to surrender those false perceptions of self that perpetuate our experience of stress.
God, source, creator, universe, thank you for bringing Dean and I together as we collaborate to bring forth a message for the highest good. I invite my guides, my angels, my team to come forward. And I invite Deans to come forward, any entities for the highest good who wish to collaborate and inform this message, help us create a message to reach the ears that need to hear and the hearts which wish to soften, so we can spark a consciousness and awareness, a love that is needed. Help us bring forth this message with the intensity that it needs to reach those ears and soften those hearts as we ask you to work through us and for us to bring forth this message for the highest good. And I always thank you for your help. Sometimes I forget to say at the end, so I'm saying at the beginning, thank you for bringing forth, and thank you for all the dear souls tuning in. As we surrender to this moment and this time and honor Dean's work, his courage and his willingness to step forward to bring forth these messages. I honor this time, I honor this space. And again, I thank you.
Very good.
Hello.
Thank you.
Sure. Hello, dear friends, and welcome to another episode of Life of Love, where we gather each week to bring forth a message for the highest good, to help us see how to live our life of love, however it looks on this day. And again, I do appreciate everyone who's been tuning in, who subscribes, who shares these messages, and always take what serves you and leave what doesn't. But again, we hold you, and we hold space for everything that humanity is going through, and recognizing that, as I said, some days are easier than others, but today is a fantastic day because I get to connect with Dean. My goodness, Dean Graves. He's coming from Memphis. And he's also coming from a long career of helping people in the counseling area, and a spiritual guide, and a renowned meditation teacher. So he's connected with many inspirations that have helped him bring forth inspiration to look at what could be, and look, inside and ask for outside help, because both are available. And so I'm really excited for him to bring forth his message and tell us about his journey, because these stories open up little portals within us to be curious. And I invite you to be curious and come with an open mind and see what could be. And again, Dean, thank you for being on Life of Love. I'm so excited to share this space with you today.
Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here, and greatly appreciate the opportunity.
Well, I know, and it's been a little getting to know you, and you have such a breadth and depth of knowledge that I was like, how are we gonna bring this down to like what our message needs to be? And I was laughing because as we were talking, I was thinking of a movie, that Fried Green Tomatoes movie.
Yes.
And Kathy Bates is going through her dark night of the soul, where she wraps herself in saran wrap, and her husband's like, well, what's going on? She's trying to reinvent herself. She's trying to get some spark. And I think that it's so relatable to us but she was willing to go there. She was willing to say, I don't like this Groundhog Day of a life I have, so I'm gonna shake it up. And it's just such a great movie, and we're both in the South, and I don't know, that came through to me, that I invite people to have a Kathy Bates Fried Green Tomatoes. Just go there, just explore what could be if you stop following any distortions. So that was my first question, like, how did you realize that we were living, or you had distortions, and I just want to start from the area of distortion because I think it would help people wrap their heads around where you're coming from in a practical way.
Okay. Well, almost everything that we experience is a distortion. And creation is consciousness. The one infinite creator is outside of creation. And the purpose of creation is so that the one infinite creator might know itself by experiencing itself. And if you're all that there is, it's very difficult to contrive some mechanism that you can know yourself by experiencing yourself. And so the one infinite creator projected an environment that's called intelligent infinity. And within that environment, he projected an analog projection of itself. In other words, it was the one infinite creator as a concept, but the only distinction between the one infinite creator, which became the creator as the object, and the creator as the subject, was that the creator as the subject was distorted with the first distortion that allowed creation to begin, which was free will. Free will is a misunderstood concept. Philosophers have centuries debated, do we have free will? Do we not have free will? Are we predetermined and so forth? But that is a misunderstanding. We certainly have the choice to turn right or to turn left or to do the myriad things that we do in the course of our experience of creation. Distortion is actually the perception of separation. That without the perception of separation, we would have no choice. If the creator is the subject, the analog projection of the one infinite creator perceived itself as the creator, it wouldn't be a projection of anything other than the one infinite creator, which would not be experiencing itself. And so the creator as the subject, having the same desires as the creator as the object, began to develop creation. And creation has a very defined structure that is made possible by increasing the variety and intensity of distortions. Free will, for we who that are participating in creation far below the creator as the subject, have varying degrees of free will intoxication. And free will works very much like whiskey. When we drink too much whiskey, then we forget who we are and we do stupid things that we wouldn't ordinarily do if we weren't under the influence of the whiskey or the alcohol. Free will intoxication increases by layers that are called densities. The creator as the subject is the eighth density, and each descending density is a fractal of the layer above. So seventh density is a fractal of eighth density, sixth density is a fractal of seventh density, and so on and so forth. Down to first density. We are inhabitants of third density. Everyone on Earth right now is an inhabitant of third density, which means we are very intoxicated with free will. We perceive ourselves to be autonomous beings, and our task, our purpose in life, as all consciousness's purpose is to explore ourselves. And we do that by having experiences. We have a mission in life or in an incarnation in addition to our purpose. Our purpose is invariable throughout all creation, regardless of your level of degree of free will intoxication. Your purpose is the same, to explore yourself. Your mission, everyone's mission, is to do what they like. In other words, if you like music, be a musician. If you like being a science, you want to be a physician, be a physician. If you want to be a bricklayer, be a bricklayer. And the reason that that has such significance is if you do what you enjoy doing, you're going to become proficient at it and you're going to thrive in that chosen activity. But it is going to bring you the type of experiences and the nature of the experiences that you need to successfully explore yourself. And so we simultaneously exist. All of creation is developed along that same replication of that same initial projection of analog projection that the creator created. The creator is the subject. In this range of consciousness, we simultaneously exist in both the metaphysical world and the physical world. You and I are analog projections of our metaphysical self. And the average human has incarnated over 3,000 times, some as many as 8,000. We have been male, we've been female, we've been different skin colors, we've been rich, we've been poor, we've been all possible combinations at this stage of our development. And so we are, the earthly population has had great difficulty in advancing. We advance through the creation process by surrendering our free will perception of separation. In other words, we sober from our free will intoxication. So as we evolve, as we advance along the enlightenment path, which is the same thing, we are surrendering our perception of separation from each other. And we begin to expose, by doing that, we begin to expose more of our authentic self, which is the one infinite creator experiencing itself at this range of consciousness.
This all goes along with the theme of conversations with God. I don't know if you've ever...
It's all the same information, yeah.
It's blowing my mind. And they're talking about the relativity and God created us so God could experience the relativity. And it follows the same theme, which is so wonderful. And I'm always curious about dimensions. And so are you saying as fractals, our metaphysical being exists on the other dimensions simultaneously as the third dimension? Or
we exist in all levels simultaneously.
Okay.
Your higher self explains itself for our limited capacity to understand as ourselves in the future. And the nature of the experiences at each range of consciousness, each density, is characterized by the mind. There is one spirit. It is the spirit of the one infinite creator. So we perceive ourselves as autonomous beings, but the reality is the actual experiencer is the one infinite creator. So as you and I are having this experience right now, we are both the one infinite creator experiencing ourselves in this exchange that we're having right now. We perceive ourselves to have an independent spirit, and that is not the case. There is one spirit. There is the spirit of the one infinite creator, but we have limited capacity to recognize that because of our free will intoxication. And we are guided, programmed, designed to enhance that perception of separation by virtue of what's called an archetypical mind. And the archetypical mind is a blueprint for how we process thoughts. And when we process thoughts, it has a defined path through this archetypical mind, just like it was a maze. And we assess every thought after it passes completely through this archetypical mind pattern. And the fruit of that thought, what we conclude from that thought, amends our beingness, our mind, body, spirit. So every time we process a thought, it goes through this maze and we adjudicate one way or the other. We have the choice to do that. And then it amends our beingness. And then we attract the next thought. And we are designed to only process one thought at a time, because that's all that it is, a self-protective device as well as a metered experience of creation for us at this range of consciousness. Particularly as we advance, then it becomes less influential, the pattern. But we're designed to only process one thought at a time. And we have to adjudicate each thought before we can go on to the next thought. And we are amended, so there is no possibility of duplicating an experience exactly, because we've changed. We're changed after every thought that we process. And so we are constantly in motion. Motion is a distortion. The creator doesn't move. And in the seventh density, the first density below the creator is the subject, the inherent characteristics of the creator become delineated. And those inherent characteristics are awareness, love, wisdom, unity, and stillness. And those are what are distorted. So we have the perception of motion, which is the distortion of stillness. And so each galaxy, which actually is a universe, what we perceive to be a galaxy is a universe. And each universe is designed with a different mixing and matching of the inherent characteristics of the creator and certain number of distortions. Our galaxy is comprised of 9 archetypes of the creator. The distortions are archetypes of the creator as well. They have the same capacity to create and to participate in creation as the inherent characteristics do. And so our entire universe expands. There are 9 archetypes that comprise our universe. And every time the universe expands, it expands by units of 9. 9 stars. Every star is home to an archetype of the creator. And so it expands in groups of 9. And our particular universe has 9. There are a total of 32 archetypes of the creator that are mixed and matched in all the universes that we see around space.
Okay, you're blowing my mind here.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I tell you, you got to guide me, guys, because I get.
So, okay, I'm just trying. I've had a few things come in, and I'd love to know your source. This is very detailed, and nines and 32, and the structure of it. How did you get this insight?
Well, a lot of the information was provided to the LL Research folks in the early 80s. But you have to, in order to get information, you have to ask. And when you ask, then that tells the higher beings that you're ready for the information. If you don't know to ask, they're not going to sit you down and say, this is what you need to know. So I was afforded the opportunity to have about a 10-year period where I was essentially in not isolation, but I didn't have any demands. I was by myself, and I could spend the days and nights communicating with my higher self.
Okay, so this is information that you heard from your higher self, and then you've incorporated it and applied it. So what is the purpose of these densities? The purpose of us, our drunkenness in free will, is for the creator to experience itself. And okay, so we're in a pretty low density in Earth. We're 3. There's lower than us. Is it lower than us in our galaxy too, or is that a separate galaxy?
The first and second density are considered foundational densities. In other words, they need to be an ongoing operation before a third density can exist or participate in creation. First density is inorganic matter. So what the four elements is easiest to associate with. Fire is the lowest range of first density, which is essentially heat, and it is a catalyst for change, particularly within first density. The second range is water. The third range is atmosphere, and the fourth range, the highest range within the first density, is what we would consider to be matter. And if you remember from high school chemistry, as you go up on the periodic table, the elements become more complex, and that is because every density is divided into dimensions. And so as you rise to the top of that density, consciousness becomes more complex. And the matter, what we would consider to be matter, obviously is much more complex than fire, and that is simply dimensional diversity. So consciousness at a certain level will manifest into gold. Consciousness at another will manifest into iron. It's all consciousness, but that consciousness has a degree of awareness, and it is by their agreement that a planet is formed. And the planet, every planet is unique because the consciousness of first density in each situation created that planet according to how they agreed among themselves to interact with each other. Second density is organic matter, plants and animals, and the range does not evolve from a single cell plant or animal. It's all kind of simultaneous. Consciousness still is not descript in second density. Second density, to give you an idea of the range of a density, second density begins with the single cell animal and concludes with primates. And that's one illustrative range of consciousness. Now, every range of consciousness has that same volume, that same expanse of potential progression by density by dimension within the density. So you can see, just looking at second density, which is most familiar to us, that's a huge range of progression for consciousness. But in second density, consciousness exists as a pool. So consciousness at a certain level would manifest into tigers, for example. Again, the pool projects an analog projection of itself into every body, tiger body. The tiger body lives a lifetime. When it dies, and what it has learned at that range of consciousness is incorporated into the pool of consciousness. Consciousness either rises or falls, and just like cream rises to the top of milk, that consciousness that has become cream is scooped up and moved to the next pool of consciousness, next range of consciousness. And so plants and animals are on the evolutionary tract as well. What they learn is not preserved as an individual being because they don't have the capacity to do that, and that's why it's pooled. It's a pooled consciousness.
They don't have the higher self or the soul.
No, they do. They have a higher self, but it's not an individualized soul. Third density is the first range of consciousness that begins as an individual. In other words, what we learn from our incarnations is preserved, and that will be preserved through the balance of our evolutionary process. And so we are in an individual tract in this range of consciousness. We begin as an individual and we end as an individual. So we progress on an individual basis. There's no group graduation from this range of consciousness.
But the idea that we're separate is a myth.
It is a myth, but it's one that we perceive most vehemently.
So we hold on to that basically until we can't rise up anymore. We realize that we're all God source creation.
Well, that occurs by natural progression. Fourth density, the range above, each of the beginning with our range of consciousness, we have a specific curriculum that we are to explore, to learn. We begin in what is defined as primordial darkness, which simply means we don't know anything. We don't have any experience. We don't know anything. We are consciousness at this beginning level, and it is incumbent upon us to propel ourselves through the density by virtue of awareness. And that is the foundational inherent characteristic of the creator. The next range of consciousness, we will do the same thing with love. And it is hierarchical only because you have to build the foundation before you build the walls. You have to build the walls before you build the roof, and so forth. You have to be aware in order to be able to explore, period.
And I love what you said about how there's only one thought at a time.
That's what creates time. Time doesn't exist outside of our perception of it, because we are limited to only being able to process one thought at a time. We perceive time to be linear. The creation exists as a simultaneous event, and we don't have the capacity to handle simultaneity yet. We will as we evolve, but not for a long time. So we perceive time.
Yeah, and that's why it's hard to think when people say, well, time is an illusion. It's hard to wrap your head around it. But to me, that's why meditation is so powerful, because you're slowing down the processing, you're slowing the thoughts. Or I don't know, what's your perspective on ways to slow down and make some space? Because I think when there's stress or overwhelm, it's like the thoughts just keep piling on each other. I think of like when you wake up in the middle of the night with a panic attack and you're just like, oh my God, did I pay the electric bill? And my gosh, I don't have life insurance. And, there's a leaky faucet and I forgot to fix it. It's like you have 12 things that come in your head in the middle of the night and you have this panic attack and you're supposed to be sleeping, but all these things keep flooding in. And the power of the breath and to just slow it down. And you're saying, no, I'm safe. Everything's fine. I just woke up with a panic attack. You're raising your awareness. But how do you view that? And have you tried? Have you consciously said, I'm just going to slow down each thought? Or is that just meditation?
The speed of light is the metronome for creation. Thoughts do not speed up and they don't slow down. Thoughts they come to us one right after the other as if it were a metronome, just going back and forth. What differs and what makes it seem like thoughts are coming in fast and furious is our condition of being at the time that we're processing the thoughts. So if we are not in a stable condition, then we perceive the thoughts are coming faster than we can deal with them.
So that's an action step. If you have that awareness,
yes,
that you need to ground, be in nature. I'm sure you have a whole laundry list of things people can do to be more stable, to process those thoughts.
Yes. Yeah, but anytime that you're feeling overwhelmed, anytime that you are feeling that those thoughts are racing, it's not the thoughts. The thoughts are on a metronome, and it's you. That is a part of becoming aware that you are the only thing that you can change. You can't change the world around you, but you can change you. And so all those exercises that we do in order to calm ourselves, to deep breathing and so on and so forth, a myriad of different methods, some of which are more viable than others, do nothing but change us, slow us down so that we can gain perspective and get back into the rhythm of processing thoughts more calmly.
It's a rhythm. And do you see it as the speed of light? It's a regular wave, correct? I mean, I'm not a physicist, but I'm just, when you say the speed of light, that's intimidating.
Physics tries to define it as a wave. Light is information.
Okay.
And so information comes to us, and we perceive light to be a constant, but it's not a constant, but its variability is minute. There's actually an institute in England that has measured the speed of light now for almost 100 years, and they have detected minute changes. And by minute, I mean to the 1,000th and 10,000th degree. During times of global stress, for example, World War II, the speed of light slowed down. minutely, but it slowed down because the consciousness of the planet declined so much during that wartime that it affected the speed of light.
So it really sheds light. Sorry, I couldn't help it. It sheds light on the importance of each person knowing that they are light and they're connected to the light at all times. And I love how you talked about your purpose is what you enjoy doing, and become a master at that, because you're going to have the most success. I forget how you said it, but the purpose doesn't have to be an enigma. It's something you already love.
Well, your purpose is to explore yourself. Your mission is to do what you love.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
most of us have incarnated in the persona that we are because there was that opportunity to do what we already have determined that we like to do.
Wow. And so the action steps would be to become aware of yourself and do that in love, because that's gonna help you see what you need to see, or have the experiences that to experience the drunkenness of free will on this dimension.
Yeah, as you, needless to say, being a practitioner and a teacher of meditation, I can't overemphasize the importance of meditation for advancing along the enlightenment path and healing distortions of perception. If you are persistent with your meditation, you will get to the point where you are not outside of your body. You're not going to leave your body, but you can recognize the distortion of your body and mind and all of that, and you feel your authentic self much more completely. And that is a wonderfully peaceful place to be, and to allow yourself to visit that on a daily basis is like having a 2-week vacation every day. And that's where you make your connections to your higher self, and that's where you begin to explore yourself deeply and completely, and begin to surrender those false perceptions of self that perpetuate our experience of stress.
It's all within you.
It's all within you. Everything is within you. Yeah. We can only explore ourselves. We perceive that we have experiences to learn about the world around us, and that's a misperception as well. We interact with people, places, and things because we learn of ourselves in relation to those people, places, and things. And if we're not aware of ourselves and what is happening within ourselves, then the fruit of that interaction is not lost, but it's not providing us with the results that we want. And so understanding that we are the one infinite creator is a tremendous transformation of your perception and how you're participating in creation. Number one, that is just a remarkable transformation to really understand that and believe that for people. And then to understand that the people and the places and the things that we're interacting with are providing us with opportunities to explore ourselves more deeply and completely. Then we become much less reactive to our life experiences, and have gratitude for those people that we perceive to be protagonists or antagonists in our life. They're bringing us a message about us because they're triggering that aspect of us that needs to be healed.
Yeah, and it is empowering to step back and say, oh, I never thought about it that way. Thank you for showing me that. And you don't have to own someone else's drunkenness of free will. That was
they're on the journey too.
That was their whiskey state, and we can say, yeah, that was your whiskey, but that's not mine. Like, I don't have to own it, but I can learn about it myself through that. It's empowering.
Well, there are strategic things that we're supposed to learn, the criteria to learn at this range of consciousness. We are to learn sympathy and compassion, which is the first range of consciousness that we really have the capacity to do that with awareness. You do that in some of the upper dimensions of the second density as well, but it's not really retained because there's not an individualized self that's evolving. That opens our metaphysical heart chakra. We have a set of our metaphysical self has a set of chakras, and our incarnate self has a set of chakras. And every thought that we process, and this is part of the archetypical mind, begins through the process. While we are infants, only our first metaphysical chakra is active. And so an infant processes every thought from its first metaphysical chakra through actually 6 physical world chakras. There are 7 chakras, but the 7th is an average of the 6 below, and so it doesn't really, in and of itself, interpret our experiences. And that is projected back in through the rest of the archetypical mind, and that changes the format of the incarnated individual as well as the metaphysical. When the terrible twos happen, when we become toddlers, what has actually happened is our second metaphysical chakra has opened, and that's what facilitates that change in behavior. You have greater awareness, but you have no information, and so you're testing the world around you to fill your beingness with more information. And we remain with just those 2 chakras open until we reach puberty, and puberty is the opening of our third metaphysical chakra. And we're processing every thought as we progress through the first chakra and all 7, and then back. And then we're doing the same thing when the second one opens. We're doing it 14 times. We're processing from every perspective. A chakra is a level of consciousness. It's a perspective. Okay. And so we're assessing with each chakra level, and the cumulative goes back to the second. When we reach puberty, then we're doing it 21 times to process a single thought. And this is outside of time, so, there's no constraint on it. And so we will retain that level of accomplishment because we're in third density until we assume responsibility for our progression through evolution. And we have to take responsibility for opening our 4th metaphysical chakra. And that is a requirement to graduate from this range of consciousness, that you have opened that 4th metaphysical chakra. And that is where the sympathy and the compassion comes from. We also have to make a very strategic choice. And that choice is whether you are going to polarize service to self or service to others. And either is a viable path. One is not condemned and the other heralded by the higher beings. But the service to self path is deemed to be the indirect path to the Creator, because you will graduate from this range of consciousness, service to self, and you may progress a long way. You can spend literally billions of what we would consider to be years along the service to self path until you hit what they describe as a brick wall, and you can't go any further because you can't be separate and you can't be in unity with the Creator at the same time. Mm-hmm. And so you have to go back and start all over. And you go back through the system to learn the path of service to others. The service to others is the direct path. And our progression from this range of consciousness is that we will begin 4th density as the individual that we graduated from 3rd density as, having met the criteria. We did our homework. We met the testing criteria, and we will progress until we surrender the authenticity of the self. We will also surrender the authenticity of the physical, and we will no longer need to incarnate. And we will form a social memory complex, and that is our perceived self, is that social memory complex.
And that's what we need to reach these levels. So how do you open up that 4th chakra? You said you have to ask?
No, you have to decide
You decide. You make the
by the
decision.
thoughts that you process, and it's incremental. And every thought that you process, you will adjudicate that either as a service to self. How is that serving you, enhancing your perception of separation, or are you serving others?
But you have to start by knowing yourself.
Yeah.
And
Until
that's your foundation. You know yourself, and
yeah,
then you decide to be the light for other people with
yeah.
sympathy and compassion and love, right? Like when you're showing up in
Well,
love, in your
you behave
joy.
in a loving manner. Love is actually not something that we have the capacity to explore at this range of consciousness. That is the next range of consciousness. And
Gotcha.
we will do in that next range of consciousness what we are tasked with doing with awareness in this range of consciousness. And we perceive at this range of consciousness that we can give and get love. And that is a misunderstanding. What we can do is, we alluded to earlier, the false perception of self that we create that's an identity.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the same thing as a hierophant or our ego. It's the same thing, three different words for the same thing. And that is who we perceive that we are. And we create this based upon our experiences in order to trick the world into giving us more of what we like. That is the face that we put on for the world. And when we have the experience of love, it is because the person, place, or the situation that we are in at the time makes us feel comfortable enough that we're willing temporarily to surrender that false perception of self, and we experience who we already are. You already are love. You are what you seek. And so when we have that experience, usually in a spousal situation, the reason that we choose that spouse is we feel comfortable enough with them and they feel comfortable enough with us that we say we can be our real self. Well, what you're actually doing is surrendering that false identity, and they are giving you permission to set that aside, and you're feeling who you already are. So you are love. You can't give love and you can't get love. You can behave in a loving fashion. It's not a commodity. It is a condition of being that you already are.
Mm-hmm. And that explains why you can feel love toward a lot of different people. You can,
Sure.
you might sound like, well, you don't love a plant. Well, you sort of can. If you see beauty in that plant, you love that plant. That's not shallow.
Yeah.
And your pets, and you can be yourself around your pets.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to hear that the perspective you're bringing forth is there's no such thing as love in this dimension.
No, I
We just,
didn't say there wasn't that.
we can't
You are
experience
love.
it.
Yeah. We do not have the capacity to explore love. We
Okay.
have the capacity to explore awareness. And the love that we feel is it's a peek behind the curtain, but it's nothing like we will experience in the next range of consciousness.
That's what I was going to get to. Like it's just a glimmer of, and you talk to people who have like near death experiences, and they're like, it's so beautiful, I didn't want to come back.
Yeah.
And did they get a glimpse of that, or?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, because that ego, that false perception of self, is
Went
designed
away.
to stay here. And when we leave here, then we're becoming our metaphysical self is a consciousness pattern. And it's actually what is choosing the service to self or service to others path. Now, the service to self path has a completely different experience than those choosing the service to others path. Service to self path is the path of isolation. And they consider love, the fourth chakra, to be folly. So they intentionally don't want to experience that. They want to jump over that, which is very difficult to do, and not that many do. Jump over that and go to the wisdom, the fifth chakra. and they're very wise. But
could you give examples of historical figures who were service to self?
well, that have graduated, they're reluctant to give us any names other than historical names. I mean, you can look around the world and see who is polarizing service to self and who is not. Rasputin graduated service to self. Taras Bulba, which was a Russian warlord. Genghis Khan graduated service to self. He met the criteria to graduate service to self. Genghis Khan is most as powerful as he was on Earth, is in fourth density as a service to self entity. Service to self are the minions for those that have graduated to fifth density along the service to self path. So he is essentially a shipping clerk in fourth density. And so he was very powerful in third density, but he got in with the big boys. He graduated to the big boys, and they are not impressed with him at all.
They're like, you don't even know.
Yeah.
And so I have to ask the other side of, we live in this dichotomy, right? Like it's all relativity for us. So service to others, am I going to be surprised?
Those that graduated service to others?
Mm-hmm.
No, they're pretty obvious.
Pretty obvious, yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty obvious. None came to mind. Those beings that we considered to be religious saints, particularly in the Catholic Church, were actually individuals. We've had a very poor graduation rate from Earth. Earth has had a very sordid history, and the last graduation period for Earth, we graduated 150 out of the millions or whatever that were here. But those 150 decided before they went to fourth density to continue to incarnate, to be guides and models for the rest of the population. And they have now gone on to their fourth density experience, all 150 of them. But they, continue to incarnate as people, but their higher consciousness made them behave as they did, and in a saintly fashion. And they became the guides or the models for us to try to emulate of what, well, they look pretty happy. I think I might try to be like them. And that's the way it works. We observe others that we deem to be happier than ourselves, and we begin to mimic them until we become them.
Each thought at a time.
One thought at a time.
You've given me so much to think about, and
in a good way, I hope.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate how you laid it out. And I'm always curious about numerology and astrology, and it's tying together these numbers, nine being all knowing. 9 is the
nine is
last
completion
number.
Also. 9 is completion also.
Completion, right, because it's 0 through 9, and then we start over again. So these things always bring me comfort, and even if my brain feels like it's a little bit of a scrambled egg with everything, I do have you gave the distortions. And if you can know the distortion, you can know the other side. And playing in our field of third dimension, it helps to have those distinct distortions to see where you are, see what's going on with you when you ask, why am I feeling this way, or what's going on with me that I see this in someone else.
Mm-hmm.
You can come back and ask yourself questions because it seems like it's all about awareness. Like, are you
awareness?
Being true to yourself? Are you being in joy? Are you choosing to serve others and glorify them and yourself?
Right. We have created a concept called the concept of empire. And the concept of empire is very simply the perception that I can be enhanced by diminishing you. And that's that is a distortion. That's a falsity. We actually function, we perceive ourselves as autonomous beings, but we are part of myriad groups up to the total population of the Earth. The total population of the Earth is one organism. Our solar system is one organism. The universe that we're in is one organism. And as you progress along the consciousness scale, then your perception of self transforms and to accept more and more of that awareness of participation as that organism. And that is that concludes eventually with you.
Do you consciously ask every day to see the unity, to be shown how you're connected to everything? Is it something that you tune into, or is it step by step, thought by thought, or a combination? I'm just curious. Is that something you need to ask? Like, show me unity. I'm open to unity.
Well, as you explore yourself, you create this hierophant that we create, this identity that we create, is a mind. It is an ego mind that is intended to be functional for us only during this incarnation. And a mind is nothing more than a bundle of beliefs. Now, that's all that a mind is. It is the filter, it is the lens through which we interpret our experiences. So we're given a body, and that contributes to our perception of self. Obviously, we perceive ourselves as male or female, which allows us to have certain types of experiences, but we independently create a mind. And the mind, based on that basic criteria, begins to assemble beliefs together. And those beliefs are what we need to begin to throw out, because that is our distortion of perception of self that occludes our awareness of our authentic self. And so we create this mind, and we wake up and we realize all the stuff I've been doing isn't making me happier.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start searching around for information, for mechanisms that can help you be happier. And then you hopefully become aware, you invert the same awareness that you were using to manipulate the world prior to your awakening. You learn to invert that and become aware that it's only you that you can change. And you become aware of these, not the emotional baggage that you've collected, as well as the beliefs that you've collected. And you begin to throw those beliefs out as you become aware of them.
So a simple
and as
question
you do
would be,
that, then more of your authentic self emerges.
okay, cool. I love it. And like, to me, it's like, does this serve me? Is this serving my values? Is this serving my joy and my giving to my community? And wow. So it can be a series of alignments that you're saying, okay, this is a distortion. I love how you can say, well, I'm giving up that distortion. I'm not going to feel separated. That's a distortion. And you can be like, done with that distortion. And you can remind yourself of that. So I like the action steps. I like how it's presented. And I thank you for bringing it forward.
Absolutely. Well, as I told you, I can ramble on for a long time.
So good. It's so good. And then did you want to talk about your book? Has it come out yet?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
out. It came out September 1st, and all of
Okay.
this information and much more is in there. It's called The Enigma of Consciousness, a spiritual exploration of humanity's relationship to creation. And it goes into much more details as to how creation began and the hierarchy of inherent characteristics and distortions. And it goes into great detail on the archetypical mind and how it works. And also goes into detail on how we create this hierophant and how it manifests into behaviors and so forth. And
Well,
it's
it really,
available wherever your favorite bookstore is.
okay, great. Well, I'll put a link to the Amazon on the show notes so that people can check that out.
That'd
And
be
also
great.
you have your YouTube channel has some great like modules on there where you take people through a series of lessons, I want to say. I saw that on there. It was really nice. And I went through part of one, but I had a lot to prepare for today, so I didn't get through
I
all of them.
understand.
But they're there. So if you're sparked, if you want to get that fourth chakra open, if you're willing to say, I'm shedding this ego, I'm shedding this belief system that's not serving me. I mean, I think the biggest red flag is if you're not happy. So what's in your life that's not serving you, and start there. But definitely this detail of what you've come to know through your higher self, it'll help give some people the framework they need. But to me, it's like we have a series of beliefs and things that we've formed, and our job is to let go of the things that don't align with our divinity. And so having this list is a great tool to chip away and try to get to that light and shine it. I've been playing around more and more with mass prayer and mass meditation, and even that hurricane, the last one that was going to hit Florida. I was a part of 3 prayer groups, and they were praying every 4 hours that the storm would lose intensity as it hit the coast of Florida, that there would be minimal damage, that, we could make a change. And what was really cool was that it wasn't as bad as they thought it was going to be. And just the idea that our thoughts and prayers, those little choices to spend that time to say, I'm feeding positivity toward this. I'm not going along with what the news, the scare tactics, the fear tactics. Is there some energy source that our emotions, our thoughts, those frequencies, are those harnessed in a way by the Creator to make more creation?
Our mind is tremendously powerful. We affect the world around us just by how we're thinking about things and how we think about things. And as we progress, then that magnifies. In other words, we talk about manifesting here in this range of consciousness. We have tremendous capacity to manifest at this range of consciousness that we've not even become aware of yet.
Okay.
And that only intensifies as we go into the next range of consciousness. In other words, if we need something, we think it and it appears in the next range of consciousness.
Well, I think we got a glimpse of it through Amazon. Like, all of a sudden, all we do is place an order. It's here within 4 hours. Like, I think the universe is starting to give us that idea. I mean,
yeah.
I hate to bring it down to consumerism, but I think that's where it's wild.
We're experiencing dramatic changes on Earth right now, and we wanted to be part of that, and it's going to intensify dramatically over the next few generations. And so the climate changes that we're experiencing are the Earth's efforts to renew itself. So the warming is something that happens. It's a cycle that the Earth has gone through since forever. And we've cycled into a part of the galaxy that triggers that, which is roughly every 25,000 years. And so we are going to continue to warm regardless of what man does. Man is accelerating that, and we're continuing to pollute that. And so the velocity of that renewal transition is much greater than it would have been normally. And so we are a significant contributor to that. But the forest fires that we're experiencing, or the landmass renewing itself, and the poles have to melt in order to replenish and renew the oceans and cleanse the oceans. And so it's all part of the natural process, but that doesn't mean that we need to stop compounding the pollution and the difficulties. But the Earth is going to be going to continue to transform regardless of what we do as humans. The Earth will be fine without us. We won't be fine without Earth.
Right. Well, if you were to give somebody advice on your insight, to make a positive impact on the Earth, what would you say to help lessen it?
Just exactly what Mahatma Gandhi said: be the change you want to see. And so, we have a long history of contention between those polarizing service to self and service to others in this particularly planetary experience. And the service to self are successful by dominating and subjugating others. And so the more information that we can dispense about how things really are, And the more awareness that we can trigger throughout the population, then the more that we will become more unified in our efforts to improve life for everyone and perpetuate our experiences on this planet.
Well said. I mean, how can you covered it all, because once you realize your impact, then you're going to make choices that are better for yourself and choices that are better for the earth. You don't want to have gain at someone else's expense, and you don't want to hurt the earth. So you're going to make choices that are conscious.
Yeah, there's abundance for all. There is no shortage of anything. But we do, through that contention, we have significant hoarding. And but there is plenty of everything: water, food, everything.
Right. I mean, you look at how plants grow in the cracks of the highway. We can grow food anywhere. We don't need to clear out a 30-acre plot of land to grow food. It just will grow.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for this part, and I love that RFK Jr. is bringing forth some contaminants that are in our food, that's been part of service to self. These companies who are producing food that has harmful chemicals in it, and we can shine some light on this greed of producing food that lasts long on the shelf, that our bodies don't know what it is. It's a whole movement. So I'm excited that happened, and our administration is going to have some focus on that, because I believe that the pesticides and the things that have been sprayed in our food it's just this idea that there's lack, that we need to maximize every square inch of farmland to grow our food, when it'll grow. We're going to be fine.
And that's what it does. That's its nature.
And that's what it was designed to do. Well, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful conversation. I can't wait to share it.
It hasn't been too much. You wanted me to tone it down. There's a lot more.
Yeah, guys. This was like the give me the basics.
Yeah, this was pretty much the basics.
So that's where I am. Dean, I thank you so much, and I appreciate all your insight and help, and you take care.
Thank you. You too. I've enjoyed it tremendously, Julie. Thank you for having me.